Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin. He collapsed on the field last night in a game against the Cincinnati Bengals.
Leader McCarthy, do you have the vote for Speaker tomorrow?
You can lose weight, your blood pressure improves, your skin improves.
There was a critical injury in last night's Monday Night Football game that we'll get to, that also the GOP struggling to figure out who they're going to put into the speaker role, and also January, dry January, will it kill you? Maybe. All that coming up on this episode of Daily Caller Live. Thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Jobob. This is Daily Caller Live, and it starts right now.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob.
That is actually her name, Jobob.
Live from the dingy bunker, completely cut off from the outside world, except for you fine folks. My name is Jobob. This is Daily Caller Live. Thanks so much for tuning in on today. It is Tuesday, January 3rd, the year of our Lord 2023. A lot to get to today. There was a horrific injury in the NFL last night, Monday Night Football. I'm sure a lot of you are aware of that. I wasn't going to show the video of the actual hit, just not really in my, when terrible things like that happen, not really a thing that I'm going to be showing all of the gruesome stuff, because I know you can find that stuff elsewhere. And that's not generally what you're going to see here. However, I did see on CBS this morning, they played it. So I just took the clip that CBS this morning did, and then I'm going to show you that specifically because, again, I don't know. I was arguing with myself this morning on whether or not to actually show you that. So you know what? Actually, we'll do that right now. If you haven't seen it from yesterday, here's what CBS this morning reported, and we will get to it, more of the details, or at least any of the details that we have after that. And then we'll talk about Kevin McCarthy, the GOP, all that sort of stuff. But I think this was a huge cultural thing that everybody coalesced around, and rightfully so, by the way. Is if you're not familiar with the story, a guy took a hit in an NFL game yesterday from the Bills and the Cincinnati Bengals, and got up and immediately collapsed. Again, you'll see the video just right here, and without getting too into the weeds just yet, here's what CBS played this morning. Watch this. Oh, if you haven't already, would appreciate you. Click the little like button and the little share button. Really, really helps us out, keeps this show chugging along. Let us know in the comment section what you think may have happened. There's a lot of things swirling around, and this is just it's a terrible tragedy, but also a really interesting thing to watch from a cultural perspective. Anyways, watch this from CBS this morning. Check it out.
I think people are well aware that we are finished watching football here tonight.
That stunning announcement came after a highly anticipated matchup between two teams vying for the top playoff seed in the AFC came to an abrupt halt Monday night.
Well, here's Higgins wide open.
9 minutes into the first quarter, Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin tackled Bengals wide receiver T. Higgins. Hamlin got up after the hit, but then suddenly collapsed.
And that is Damar Hamlin.
Medical personnel quickly descended to administer CPR to Hamlin. The Bills said Hamlin went into cardiac arrest and his heartbeat was restored on the field. Players on both sides were visibly upset, some crying and others taking a knee to pray. Hamlin was then loaded into an ambulance on the field. His team knelt together in a circle as he was driven away. Hamlin is now at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center in critical condition.
Okay, so that's what happened. Again, I wasn't sure that I was going to actually show the hit and then him collapsing because I don't know. I feel like if you really want to watch that, you can watch it somewhere else. However, CBS this morning, which is a much bigger show, has a much bigger production value, a lot of teams there deciding and making decisions, they decided that it was appropriate to show, so that's what we played. But the bottom line is, he's in critical condition at a hospital in Cincinnati after collapsing on the field following a tackle during the Monday night game against the Bengals. The NFL said Damar Hamlin suffered a cardiac arrest, but his heartbeat was restored on the field before he was taken to the hospital. The Bills announced early Tuesday the NFL That's what the Bills announced early Tuesday. The NFL suspended the game indefinitely after the harrowing incident. This is from the Washington Post, by the way, during the fourth quarter of a highly anticipated game. A lot of eyes were on this. So again, not that this is a sports show, but just from a cultural standpoint, most of the primetime games have been not good, especially with the NFL. The Thursday nights and the Monday nights have been kind of like, these kind of two teams. They schedule these out, again, a year in advance. And you never know if the teams are going to be good or if they're going to be in sort of a playoff contention or anything like that. This was a very, very important game. The Bengals are very, very good. The Bills are very, very good this year. So all I'm saying is I think a lot of people were watching this game and saw that happen. There was a hit. He collapsed and they stopped the game. Appropriately so, by the way. A lot of people on the internet saying a lot of different things. I know what a lot of you are thinking. I'm not going to go there. I just won't. Maybe if it turns out after the fact that we get more information. As of right now, the only thing that anybody's doing, and really the only thing that I'm bringing to you, is that he is still in critical condition at a hospital, and speculation continues to fly all over the place, and I won't get into that stuff as of right now. But, we will see. Jordan Rooney, a marketing representative for Hamlin, wrote on Monday, late Monday night, that his vitals were back to normal and they have put him to sleep to put a breathing tube down his throat. They're currently running tests. So there's that. Yeah, I see a lot of you in the comment section too, just wanting to go to that place. Look, I am not saying that is not what happened. And if you catch my drift, you catch my drift. But I'm careful with everything, and I'm not going to just throw out things very early on. If it turns out to be, what everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people in the comment section are saying, we will talk about that at a later date. As of right now, I am not one to jump to conclusions. Actually, you know what? That's what I think is the problem with a lot of media types out there. Whether I agree with them or not, that is irrelevant. There's a lot of people that just jump to conclusions immediately, and I'm not trying to demean people for doing that, but we're going to let things settle and figure out what's going on when things are made available. Let me see. Wow, some aggressive people in the comment section. Okay, so we'll talk about this. Thea says, coward. Okay, that's fine. You're fake like the news. Okay, that's fine. I think I've made my point here of we're going to be careful about this sorts of things. And if something happens later on down the road, and trust me, we will all find out together. We'll talk about that sort of stuff. But as of right now, things are so new, it would be utterly irresponsible to talk about something that is entirely unproven up to this point. That's all I'll say about that. One of the other big takeaways that I thought from this that was really, really interesting last night, especially if you're following this on Twitter, a lot more people pray than one would be led to guess. If you were to take a guess right now, how many people in this country pray? Given the media scope and the landscape that we're looking at, I would imagine that a lot of people would be like, oh, not many. But when something terrible like this happens, a lot of people take to prayer. And that's a good thing, by the way. But it is interesting how many people out there do, in fact, pray for things and for other people and for their life circumstances, but may be silent on other issues in the long term when it comes to prayer and all of that. So that's that. We're going to move on to this because I think this is fascinating. This is a fascinating development in the same people that are angry in the comment sections. You might get angry at this too. What do you think about Speaker McCarthy? Is that a term that you think you can handle for the next 2 years? The GOP is voting to who's going to be their speaker in this next congressional term. People got sworn in, will get sworn in today, I believe, by the speaker, if a speaker is selected. Kevin McCarthy is the only serious candidate right now in the GOP to take that speaker role. But hugely important, right? Hugely important. The speaker is a very, very important role. They control the House. They are the third in line to the presidency. Big time role. Here's the problem. Since Republicans did so poorly in the midterms and did not have a red wave at all whatsoever, they are put in the position where the margin is super, super thin, and a couple holdouts could derail Kevin McCarthy's entire dream of being the Speaker of the House. Now, people can blame him for the poor turnout for the midterms, and some people are doing that. I'm not really taking a side here. I'm just telling you what is happening. I thought this video was really, really interesting. They got McCarthy in the hallway of the Congress yesterday asking him, hey, do you think you'll get the votes for the speaker? And his demeanor was pretty telling of what he thinks is going to happen. I want you to watch this and let me know if you think Kevin McCarthy is going to be the speaker. Also, if you haven't already, would appreciate you clicking the little like button and the little share button. Let us know in the comment section. A lot of you are not shy this morning in the comment section. We will see if we can get to some of these. Got to a couple of them earlier. Yeah, check this out and we'll discuss on the other side.
Leader McCarthy, do you have the votes for speaker tomorrow? McCarthy, do you have the votes for speaker locked in tomorrow?
I think we're going to have a good day tomorrow.
What are your conversations like with members?
Good to see you.
Are you prepared to make more concessions in exchange for more support?
I hope you all have a very nice New Year's.
So he didn't answer the question at all. Do you have enough votes? Do you have enough votes to be the speaker tomorrow? And he says, I think we're going to have a good day tomorrow. I think that'll happen. I'll tell you this. I'm going to be careful how I say this. Kevin McCarthy is not my first choice for the Speaker of the House, especially on the Republican side. Having said that, doesn't appear to be a lot of other contenders, but there are holdouts, like we talked about just a few minutes ago, because there's such a razor-thin margin in the House of Representatives. The whole will he have enough votes really comes down to a couple holdouts. One of those holdouts is Congressman Matt Gaetz. I believe Lauren Boebert, who was walking with him, and I would imagine also came out of the same meeting, would be in that category. But watch this. Well, shoot, I want to see. Let's get to this. This is in the Washington Post. I thought this was kind of interesting, the way that they're describing things happening. House Leader Kevin McCarthy and his allies have spent the entire holiday weekend working on the phones and meeting with members to try and salvage a career goal of becoming Speaker on Tuesday, as Republicans continue to argue over whether or not he deserves the top spot. While an overwhelming majority of Republicans want to elect McCarthy as Speaker, roughly 15 Republican congressmen have put the outcome in serious doubt. Kevin can afford to lose only 4 Republicans. Again, this is the problem with Republicans not having a good turnout in the midterms. On the floor's vote Tuesday with a razor-thin margin that has emboldened staunch conservatives within the House Freedom Caucus who have made specific demands in exchange for their votes. If McCarthy fails to win the gavel in the first ballot, it would be a historic loss. No leader vying for the speaker has lost in the first round in a century. So it's been 100 years since somebody has lost in the first ballot of the voting for the Speaker of the House. While McCarthy's loss on the first ballot would be historic, the first since 1923. Oh, exactly 100 years. Huh, that's kind of interesting. It is not unprecedented. Out of respect for McCarthy, Republicans are expected to approve holding a second round of votes. But what happens, and this is what I was curious about, what happens if he doesn't get the vote? Just things just kind of hang in the balance for a long time? What happens after that is anyone's guess. McCarthy is adamant about staying on the floor until his critics cave, according to several lawmakers and aides familiar with his thinking. If McCarthy is unable to secure the necessary votes, Republicans speculate that at some point he will either recognize that he can't clinch the support of the holdouts or pull out and when members privately bring up the reality show. Those in the Only Kevin group are not entertaining the idea of another speaker and would only do so if McCarthy decides to drop out of the race himself. Continuing on, I know this is a long little piece, but I think this is interesting because my thought is, well, what happens? Like, I don't know what actually happens. Oh, here's what happens. Without a speaker in place, basic House functions such as swearing in members and voting on a package dictating the House rules would be delayed indefinitely. It is a warning that McCarthy allies have routinely given to the Freedom Caucus counterparts and have empathized that without McCarthy, a consensus candidate would have to emerge between the GOP and Democrats, ruining Republicans' chances of influencing anything in the next Congress. So there's a huge component there. There is a possibility that somebody in a bipartisan way gets to 218. I could see that happening. It's very possible, too. It's very possible that McCarthy is back-channeling to Democrats right now, which is not good for Republicans to be having this infighting. But it's possible that Kevin McCarthy is back-channeling to Democrats in order to get 5 or 6 of the super moderate Democrats in the super red parts of the country that win on name recognition and incumbency to try and get to his side in order to get his votes. Then you have Democrats voting for a Republican for Speaker of the House. Those people would likely get primaried from people far to the left of them, and they'd lose that seat in the next election. And just so many things are happening right now. And one of the reasons that it's happening is because of things like this. And I'm not saying this is good or bad. I'm just saying, one, I would not necessarily choose Kevin McCarthy, but also I understand the importance of consolidating some sort of consensus in order to maintain some sort of structure in the Republican House Party. This is Matt Gaetz, who is a big-time holdout for Kevin McCarthy. I don't necessarily disagree with his reasoning, but it is interesting how he's going about it. Anyways, watch this. Check this out. Also, if you haven't already, would appreciate you clicking the little like button and the little share button. I realize, that we're getting very, very deep into the politics of this. Check this out, and we'll discuss on the other side.
Brief and productive discussion.
How was it productive?
Insofar as that it was brief.
Can you elaborate a bit more?
I sure could.
I mean, has he won your support yet, Congressman?
No.
Why not?
I think I've laid that out extensively. I'll tell you what, I'll send you the speech I gave at Turning Point. I was able to extend my remarks there a little further.
But I'm just curious, when you say productive, it didn't nudge you a bit toward yes?
It was brief and productive.
That's a different tone than you've struck before.
Thanks for noticing.
So is he giving into your demands?
It was a brief and productive discussion.
You might vote for him tomorrow?
You're not ruined. Is it fair to say you're not ruined?
I'm a no.
You're a no.
Okay, so all right, now I'm going to get to some comments here because I think this is fascinating to see where people are. Deborah says Matt Gaetz would be a great speaker. Okay, that's an interesting opinion. Rebecca also says Matt Gaetz for speaker. And then there's guys like Rowdy, is it Rowdy? That says it's 5 sorry-ass traitor Republicans that are holding out. So we've got some infighting that we have to deal with on the conservative side of the aisle. Jody says, of course, he's back channeling, talking about Kevin McCarthy trying to work with Democrats across the aisle in order to secure enough votes to become the speaker. Manchin comes to mind. Manchin is in the Senate, but people like Joe Manchin would be there. Michael says, I would love to see Jim Jordan get the speaker job. And Lana agrees. Jim Jordan, McCarthy can't be trusted. Here we go. There's more. Darlene says Jim Jordan. And then speaking about Kevin McCarthy, Jody says he is spineless. I don't know how we... I don't know how we figure out this infighting, but again, like I'm also saying, we're getting into the weeds politically speaking, and I think I apologize for that. And then Ryan pointed out, OMG, how dare you bring politics into this political podcast, Jobob? You're terrible. All right, that's funny. Bottom line here is we will all find out together what happens, and it'll be interesting to see if Republicans can figure out how to stop fighting each other and maybe, I don't know, figure something out to where they don't have to cross the aisle for speakers. What I'd love to see is some conservative influence on Kevin McCarthy to go, hey, you need to do X, Y, and Z in order to bring the Freedom Caucus on. And Kevin go, okay, we'll do that. Like, sweet, awesome. And we'll see what happens from there. A lot of people still weighing in. Definitely Jordan. They'd love Jim Jordan. And then there's more Matt Gaetz people. So, man, this is a lot. People saying Kevin McCarthy's a rhino. Jeez, this is wild, and I don't know. It really speaks to the infighting going on in the Republican Party and amongst conservatives as a whole. I am a big proponent of trying to recognize that even though a conservative may not entirely agree with your opinion, you still have to win. That is the objective. The objective is to win. If you don't win, then none of the conservative stuff gets through, as opposed to some. That's the whole thing. Compromise. That's what it's about. And there's a lot of people that are like a hard line, no one compromises. There are issues that I'd say absolutely no compromise on. However, in terms of infighting, figure it out, guys. Okay, let's move on to something else that I think is, there's so many things that I think are fascinating. This whole dry January thing. Let's go to this, because I feel like this is a big part of the reasons that there's this massive infighting in the Republican Party. Whether or not we're going to continue to support Ukraine, we're not going to talk about that at length here. Maybe that we can save that for another day, but I do want to talk about this. This is freaking interesting. Vladimir Putin, whether you agree or not sending money to Ukraine, and there's people on both sides of thought with that sort of thing, I tend to be on the, hey, we are sending way too much money over there. But you don't have to agree. That's totally fine. Either side of that argument says, regardless, yeah, Putin sucks. I think Lindsey Graham was having a conversation with Bernie Sanders, which I like to see. I like to see the cross the aisle conversation. But he famously said, internet online famously said that we can agree on one thing. It's that Putin is I think he said a bad word. Then Bernie says, I disagree with the profanity, but I agree with the sentiment. Everybody thinks that Putin's a bad guy. Here we go. Another Russian oligarch is dead. This is not a thing that is unusual in the Putin newscape. Now, for those of you that have been following this show in particular, and anytime we talk about either a scientist in Russia, an oligarch in Russia, a dissident in Russia, there seems to be one common thread on how they die. Let us know in the comment section if you have any guesses, and when I reveal how this guy died, we'll see if you're right. Again, it's pretty consistent with all of the other mysterious deaths of Putin dissidents. The Russian billionaire was the sausage king of Russia. He was a multi-millionaire who was a local politician, just celebrated his birthday at a hotel in India. Antov was the guy's name, was a well-known figure in the city of Vladimir, east of Moscow last summer. He denied criticizing Russia's war in Ukraine after a message appeared on his WhatsApp account. The millionaire's death is the latest in a series of unexplained deaths involving Russian tycoons since the start of the Russian invasion, many of whom openly criticized the war. Reports in Russian media said that Mr. Antov, 65, okay, hold on. Before we say this, I want to see if there's anybody in the comment section who guessed how this guy died, because it's pretty consistent. Okay, this one also, Rebecca says probably by poisoning. It was not poisoning, but good guess. Prudencio also said poisoning. Good guess, not poisoning. He died having fallen out of a window in a hotel in the city of Ranagata on Sunday. Another member of the four-strong Russian group also died at the hotel on Friday. There's a lot of people in the comment section having some funny guesses. Kelly says jumped. That's probably the closest guess to the correct one. But if you guys remember, there were 3 doctors during the whole COVID thing that were not fans of how Vladimir Putin was handling COVID, and they mysteriously fell out of a window. Like, oh, and like weeks apart too. It wasn't like 3 doctors fell the same day. It was every single time Putin sends to kill somebody. If he can figure out how to get them in a high area next to a window, he's pushing them out. That's the way that Putin decides to kill people. Usually not by poisoning, but sometimes I guess he also does that. Nothing to see here, folks, says Jamie. And then Kelly says, jumped not on his own, clarifying her earlier comment. Thanks for doing that. But yeah, it's an interesting story. Last June, this guy appeared to react to Russian missile attacks on a residential block in Kyiv that left a man dead and his 7-year-old daughter and her mother wounded. And he was critical of that in a WhatsApp message. He also said on WhatsApp, "It's extremely difficult to call this anything but terror." So yes, that seems to be the case. James says, "Oh, he was suicided." That's funny. So this is interesting. Ryan says poisoning is only on foreign soil. This was on foreign soil, I believe, but I believe he was in India at the time celebrating his birthday. So there's that. But interesting. Yeah, usually that's how they do it on foreign soil. Okay, let me see. Do I want to get to this dry January thing? We'll save that for tomorrow. The dry January stuff is interesting. The Washington Post saying that the dangers of dry January, but we'll get to that tomorrow. Today was interesting. A lot of people, I think, in the comments section wanted to go immediately to the football player that we talked about of, what about this? What about this? What about this? And I entirely hold room in my head for that being a possibility. If you didn't understand it, they're talking about the vaccine. Did he get the vaccine? Was it an enlarged heart that suffered some trauma and therefore he collapsed? Again, not going there. There's no way of knowing. There's a guy that I know I met a couple weeks ago, Dr. Human Hamadi, who very, very eloquently on Twitter said, "Hey, this is a possibility, but there's no way of knowing right now. Let's wait before we start jumping to conclusions." But a lot of people mad in the comment section that which is fine. We're allowed to disagree here. And I appreciate all of you who watch continually and disagree with me fervently. Kind of helps this thing continue to be interesting. But that's going to do it for us today. We appreciate you sticking around, tuning in. Looks like the feed is getting a little bit slower, so I wonder if that's time to call it quits. If you haven't already, give me a follow on any of your social media accounts. Just type in JOBOB. Pretty much anywhere you'll be able to find me on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Getter. We're also streaming on Getter for I think a couple of months now. So hello on Getter if you're watching there. Oh no, are we're freezing? Oh, there we go. Now we're back. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. We'll get to the dry January stuff. We'll see what happens with this GOP vote on the floor for the speaker. And if anything else breaking in the news happens, we will keep you informed and up to date. Also, we'll keep everybody up to date on this whole NFL situation. That'll do it for us today. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. God bless America.